Good morning to some, good afternoon to others, and good evening to the viewing audience across the pond. I'm your host, Jason Miles, here for another episode of This is Revolution Podcast. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Glad to have you here. If you're one of our returning listener subscribers or one of our very valued patrons, so glad to have you back. We usually don't do shows this early, but since you guys prefer the live stream, we're doing it live. A quick reminder that we will be back at our normal time slot, 6 p.m. Pacific, to discuss nostalgia and the 1985 classic The Last Dragon with philosophy professor Jason Reed. Following the show, we'll be viewing the movie with all of our patrons and paid YouTube subscribers. If you'd like to join us for our raucous champagne rooms and movie nights, or you just like to support a media project such as this, then become a patron or a paid YouTube subscriber for as little as $3 a month or $30 for the year. You can have access to all the past and present champagne rooms, movie night replays that feature all of the TIR family in movie banter. You get the weekly TIR newsletter, the latest one. Adolf Reed joined, so take that. And you get early access to the crisis papers. Just know that your small donation goes a long way in making sure this channel can continue to stay on the air. Now, on to what you people came here for in the first place. Pro-natalist, anti-natalist, who you got? Is human reproduction a political act? In recent years, global fertility rates have fallen sharply across the world, from Europe and North America to parts of Asia and Latin America, reshaping how societies think about the future of work, care, and even civilization itself. But how we interpret this trend reveals deeply conflicting political narratives. Is declining birth a symptom of freedom, economic precarity, or ecological crisis? I can't talk this early. Should we embrace choice, or should states and movements actively encourage childbearing? In her Jacobin essay, To Give Birth or Not to Give Birth, EVELINA JOHANSSON WILÉN reframes this debate as a repoliticization of reproduction, a terrain where pro-natalist and anti-natalist positions have become polarized, yet both often fail to grapple with the underlying conditions shaping reproductive choice. Against nationalist anxieties, racist pro-natalist policies, and moralizing birth rate politics, she asked whether we can think about having children without treating it as either a duty to the state or a liability to the future. Today, we're digging into two poles of the debate that increasingly shape how people think about reproduction. Pro-natalism, the view that society should encourage or subsidize childbirth, a position sometimes tied to nationalist or capitalist anxieties about economic growth and aging populations. And anti-natalism, the ethical idea that bringing new life into the world may be morally problematic or even undesirable, especially under conditions of ecological crisis, economic insecurity, or social injustice. But are these positions inherently aligned with certain political camps? Is anti-natalism by definition anti-capitalist, and pro-natalism inseparable from capitalist priorities? Or do these frameworks both risk reinforcing capitalist logic in different ways, valuing children as investments or liabilities rather than part of a broader politics of care? To answer these burning questions, please welcome returning guests, EVELINA JOHANSSON WILÉN. Heyo.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm fine, and thank you for having me back. It's really nice.
Well, thank you for producing such great work that I find thought-provoking and important. So there's that. The pro-natalism versus the anti-natalism. How would you define pro-natalism and anti-natalism for those that don't know? Because I think we have to kind of get these definitions out before we continue with this conversation.
Yeah, I think that because actually when I started to write the text of the piece, it was because a friend of mine asked me to write about it. so then I thought, okay, let's dig into this. And then, of course, like the first idea, or like the first thing that I thought of when I thought about like pro-natalism, is this kind of conservative kind of thought and also policy that wants people to have children and and more children, and that kind of tries to get people to have children through partly like a conservative or authoritarian discourse, or yeah, kind of rhetoric, but also by kind of restricting abortion, these kinds of things, or maybe giving baby bonuses to people who get children, or yeah, you know. So this was my first kind of idea, or the first way that I would define it. But then, like, when you dig into it, of course, you can see that like pro-natalist politics can be, you can see it a bit more neutral, in a sense that it can have this form of like a conservative form, but also a more like egalitarian form of pro-natalism, that is just kind of saying that, okay, we need children, like for society to kind of reproduce itself, we need children. And how do we do that in a how do we achieve that? How do we get people to feel kind of satisfied enough and happy enough and secure enough to have children? So that is also a certain form of pro-natalism. Yeah, so that would be defining pro-natalism, saying that it comes in different shapes and forms, but recently we've seen this more conservative kind of turn, which makes people kind of hesitant about it. And then we have this kind of anti-natalism, which is asking, like, do we really need more children? Saying that, so it's more, I would say that it's more, at least in my part of the world, it's more like a philosophical thing rather than like politics, but saying that, okay, so like the planet is really suffering, like, do we need more people that are
Using
consuming
more
and
resources.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or like to live is just suffer, it's and to suffer, and it's just a question of pain, like, is it like morally
That's
just
super
to get children?
depressing, by the way.
Sorry.
So that's super depressing, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Children are pain.
Yeah, or but also like life is pain, so like why get a child just because you want, out of kind of because you want to have a child and you feel happy about that? Why should someone else be kind of the tool for your happiness or something like that? So yeah, so that would be another way of thinking about it. But I think that like, even if it's this more kind of philosophical view, I think that you can also see it like in kind of just ordinary life. I mean, like, for example, here in Sweden, I've read like a lot of pieces from women that they interview who chose not to have children, and then they say like, yeah, firstly, I'm so much happier, blah blah blah, but also I feel that it's part of like a responsibility that I have, you know, that there are so many children already. So you can see that this kind of thinking is part of the way that kind of ordinary women and men thinks.
Do you find the anti-natalism position more of a political one in the Western context?
The
Extreme position, and I hate saying extreme left. But
I think that you can say that, and I think this is the problem with the left quite often, you know, that
Sure.
if like the conservatives say one thing, for
Yeah.
example, like last time we talked about the family, if they're like, oh, family is great and then they will say like, no. So then if we see kind of this shift to pro-natalism within the more conservative parts of politics, then the left tends sometimes to respond with like a negative response, you know, being the opposite.
Yeah.
So I would say that like in certain parts of the left, like this seems to be like a proper response. But then of course, like if you would look at like Swedish politics or Nordic politics, then you would see like the left parties also
Are
kind of
pro-natal.
yeah.
Because you always hear that, and you write about this in the piece too, that if you are pro-natalist, inherently you are reinforcing the nuclear family, and you are inherently reinforcing the free labor of women, which, you know, and from the Western context, these make America great again people want to get back to the good old days of women staying home and handling all the child rearing, but financially people just can't afford it anymore, so it almost seems like it's delusional thought.
Yeah. And also I think that I think that like most people, I'm not going to talk for most people, but I think that for many people, like having children or
Mhm.
like having a family is something extremely like valuable, and that they can't kind of, yeah, that they don't feel that it's a possibility for them. So then it's like a real kind of sorrow and sense of loss that like the political situation makes that choice kind of not available. And I think that's really important for the left to think about. Um, and also to think about when we talk about like reproductive rights, certainly like quite often from like a feminist perspective, we talk about the right to abortion and, you know, those kind of stuff. But I think it would make sense to think about reproductive rights in a more expanded way, as also like the right to be able to have a child, if you see what I mean. So I think that yeah.
Do you find that to be kind of a problem when we talk about things like choice? Like even that framing is kind of capitalistic, because as you talk about reproductive rights, the right to be able to reproduce has to involve your material economic
Yeah.
conditions. And that's eliminated from that discussion. And it just
Yeah.
kind of boils down to, you know, choosing.
Yeah. Like choosing, and then like and quite often kind of, I mean, I think, yeah, and choosing not to, but like how are like our choices restricted, not only by, because I think it's quite often, and that's often the problem with like liberal
Mhm.
politics, that we look at kind of the laws, we look at kind of those kind of restrictions, like are you allowed to have an abortion, are you allowed to have children, like okay, yeah, we're allowed to but then
Mhm.
like okay, can we? So I think that also if we look at this kind of more traditional way of understanding reproductive rights as kind of the question of abortion, like okay, can you afford an abortion? So I think that like both sides of this needs to kind of to make sense, we need to bring in the material questions.
Why is that so hard to bring in that question when it should be the fundamental crux of the argument if we're talking about rights and health? Why is that aspect eliminated? Is it just the choice part of it kind of oversimplifies it from the liberal lens, and you can make a nice bumper sticker?
I think, I mean, of course, it would demand greater political change. I think, I mean, if we look at the feminist movement, for example, I mean, some of the demands that the feminist movement has had is more easily met within like a capitalist context, and some of them are less easy to kind of push forward. So I think that like, I think that in many senses, like maybe the left has like, okay, so what is possible? Like, what can we fight for? What will they accept? So of course we want, like, yeah, if we can't have this, then we'll choose to go for example, abortion as a right. I mean, that's also something important. So do you see
Yeah,
what I mean? That
yeah.
like you feel that okay, what will be possible to kind of demand. And then I think that maybe once this was like strategic, but then it kind of goes into like a tradition of like what kind of demands do we pose, and so then like those demands that are more radical in a sense, it's like we lost the memory of posing those kind of demands in a sense, maybe.
Do you think though, kind of on that, do you think that oh Jesus, I forgot what I was going to say. I just lost my I apologize.
But I can come back to one thing,
Yeah.
just and then you can gather your thoughts.
Yeah.
I think that like also this thing with like understanding like pro-natalism as just kind of conservative, pro-family, blah 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 blah. I think that this has to do with the kind of I think that it has to do with the fact that you can only kind of envision this pro-natalist politics that is that Nancy Fraser, who I'm resting on, which I do quite often, talks about these different kind of regimes, and then she always forget like the names of them in English, but she talks about this kind of the male breadwinner regime. The woman working at home, or the mother at home, and then the man working, and then the universal breadwinner, which would be kind of both are working, but still the state hasn't secured like a care structure. And then the third one would be the caregiver parity model, which would be like within that frame, which would be that, okay, so both are working, but also there's an infrastructure for care. And I think that if you imagine like a pro-natalist perspective as actually being the caregiver parity model, then it's quite difficult to say that it's kind of inherently conservative. And you would also see that what this model is about, it's not only targeting kind of people having children, but I mean the things that would come out of that model would also be like a functioning healthcare, schools, blah blah blah. So everyone would kind of benefit from that. So then like you wouldn't have to call it pro-natalism at all. So so I think that it's and like the conservative like pro-natalist politics is kind of only targeting those having children, and then like those who are not having children are kind of left behind, whilst like a more care oriented model would kind of make it better for everyone, if you see what I mean. So I think that's important as well for the left to be able to kind of embrace like a pro-natalist politics.
How do pro-natalist policies in various countries reflect nationalism or gender roles? Like in your country, for example, I'm sure it's a little different, but you actually speak about different countries and how they use pro-natalist policies to be a little more authoritarian.
I think that, for example, like in Sweden right now, it's quite interesting to see what's going on, because as I write in the piece, like all politicians are extremely kind of worried about like the declining birth rate, and try to like in one way or another, like they have different solutions, but everyone is really worried. But then you can see that it's like mainly rhetorical in a sense, that they don't really, so that would be the Swedish case, that it's mainly rhetorical, like, okay, so we need people to be able to have children. And there was this crazy idea, or crazy, I don't know if it's that crazy, but that every workplace should have a room where people can have sex, because the problem is that people don't have the time.
I need to move to Sweden. I mean, you guys got to figure it out.
It's the Swedish sin. So in one sense we have that, and then at the same time, like Sweden right now has like an extremely restrictive immigration policy. And then like sending home people who's been living here for 15 years or 20 years, and also kind of now, I don't know what's going on in the US, but also like if you want to have access to like social security, if you want to be able to have money for like taking care of your children and stuff like that, then you have to prove that you've been living in Sweden for like 5 or 10 years. This was not the case before, 5 or 10 years, and then you will have access to this, but only if you have a certain level of what's that word, like salary, only if you have a certain salary. So I think that with this, like, okay, so we have this general kind of people should have children, but then like not your like it's a certain group.
Not you
Yeah.
brown people is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, exactly. And if it's gonna be you brown
Brown
people,
people.
then you have to be rich. So I think that's like extremely yeah, interesting to see what's going on with the kind of pushing people out of the country, and at the same time saying, so we have a care crisis. They don't use the word care crisis, but we have a crisis, who's going to take care of children? And you're like, yeah, there's a lot of people here who wants to be here and that are quite often doing those jobs. So I think that, yeah, so in Sweden it's more of that still. I mean, this rhetorical pro-natalism, and then like, but then separating between different groups. But then if you look at, for example, like Hungary, they would give like baby bonuses
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
They're trying to do something like that here in the US. You didn't talk about this too much in your piece. I know there's a word count, and you can't get into everything when
Yeah.
you do these things for places like Jacobin. But the race aspect of this plays in the United States in ways I think people think are from a time long ago, with forced sterilizations of Native American and of course Black women. But we also see currently there's still this policy in different parts of the world. Is it Greenland where they what country is that where you have to have like you have to be approved to have a child if you're native?
Okay, I don't know. I'm gonna look that up. It sounds yeah,
Pretty
absolutely.
harsh. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is really like it's a case where you can really see this structure and this like different kind of valuation of people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But you
And
don't
I
see
think,
that where you live right now. They're not trying to do anything like that with their immigrant populations, are they? Or it's still kind of secret.
yeah, I think I mean, of course, it's like they have this kind of targeted like policies in relation to certain groups, like Somalian women, like they have too many children, they think, but then like other groups should have more children, so then they have like this targeted, like the sex rooms or stuff like that. I mean, but not as horrible as that yet. But I think that, like, yeah, if you would look at, I mean, Hungary is in Europe the worst case, where it's extremely where like Orban is actually saying, like, okay, we have been trying to solve this question of declining fertility rates with immigration, and that's like a threat to the nation, and we have to do it in different ways. And I think so he's more kind of honest about what's going on, but I think you could see similar logics to the way that it works in countries that are seen as less entrenched with racism, in a sense.
Is there a political position beyond pronatalism and antinatalism?
Mm. I think that, for example, what I've tried to think about is because I think that, of course, right now it's impossible to say that the question of having children or natalism or pro-natalism, that it's not political. I think it's extremely important to analyze it as a political issue. But then I think that what we need to kind of guard or to kind of defend is the possibility of places and spaces in our lives that are not ruled by politics, in a sense. I don't know exactly how to explain this, but I think, like, there's a philosopher that I like a lot who her name is Batami Baron, and she has said that the problem with capitalist societies is that it's ethically impoverished. That, like, there are so many, like, restrictions, there are so many things that are forcing us to do in one way or another. So kind of the place for ethical reflection, for example, around the question, like, okay, do I want a child? Will I be a good parent? Like, how will what I lived through as a child affect the way that I will treat my children? Those kind of questions that I feel should be the most important questions, are kind of pushed away, in a sense, because, like, if you have a society where you need to have children because there's no care structure, then you're like, yeah, if I don't have a child, who will take care of me when I'm old? Or or this kind of, yeah, I want to have a child but I can't because it's too expensive, or I don't have an apartment, or I don't have a permanent job. So I think that we live in this kind of political situation where they take away the possibility for people to be kind of ethically reflexive, if you see what I mean. So I think that's kind of a really nice way of thinking about, like, what capitalism does, that it creates this ethical impoverishment, and at the same time it's kind of it's kind of defined by this extremely moralist kind of discourse, or I don't know what to call it, but saying that, like, you should have a child because this and that. That person should not have a child because because you're poor, or because your culture is really horrible, or whatever. So there's this kind of this kind of lack of ethics, and this kind of abundance of moralism. So what I'm kind of thinking is then that another position would be to kind of say, like, what world would we need, or what kind of structures would we need to make the question of having a child or not to have a child an ethical one and not a political one, which it is now. And so and to get there we need politics. So it's not like either politics or ethics, but yeah.
Well, how can we center care, autonomy, and social reproduction rather than population metrics? What would be the first step, in your opinion, to make that change? Is it a super ideological one that has to change within the system that we exist in?
I don't know. It's also like a bit difficult for me, because I wrote this piece, and it was just like a way of starting to think about this. But I think that that one way would be to kind of say, like, okay, so you want us to have children, but okay, so but at the same time you're defunding the school, you're like hollowing out all the institutions that would make that choice kind of possible. And then I think then we would put focus on care, and also on all the care work that is needed to take care of to take care of children and elderly and sick people, and so I think that might be kind of just kind of pointing to the tensions in kind of the pro-natalist discourse and the concrete politics that is going on at the same time, and saying that this doesn't match. This just doesn't work. And you will not get, I mean, you will not have yeah, you will not have us, we will not have more children just because you kind of give a extra bonus to someone.
A one-time bonus too.
Yeah, a one-time bonus.
Yeah, like a one-time
Yeah.
bonus is all it takes. Hey, it's $500 to have a kid. There you go. You can
I mean, of
buy
course,
some
people
onesies.
tend to be a bit short-sighted. So maybe I mean maybe it works in some cases, but I think it's also like, I think it's an important struggle to, like a political struggle, in a sense, because also like one of the guys that I read in relation to this article is a Norwegian sociologist, who is talking about like, okay, so like when do people have a lot of children?
Mm.
And he says like, okay, so they can have it if it's kind of, we have a society that is extremely conservative, and then like all like the political decisions that are taken goes in this kind of conservative direction, and also like culturally people are kind of conservative in a sense, then people tend to have children. Okay, so and then we have this, like, when do people not have children? Well, that can be when we have this kind of a bit more kind of progressive politics, like on a rhetorical level, but then like on the material level, it goes against this progressive politics. So then kind of, for example, women are told maybe that, yeah, you're equal, you can live the life you want to, blah blah blah, but then it doesn't kind of match with what's going on the ground, and then people will not have children. But if we have a society where kind of the ideology goes together with the concrete politics, in a progressive way, then people would have children. So, and I think that on both these poles, now I don't know if this makes sense, like the conservative pole where politics and rhetorics fit, and then the more progressive pole where it fits. Yeah, we can go either way, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And now I think that in many, at least like Western countries, we're in this middle alternative, which is that, yeah, that we have this on the surface, like this a bit kind of, at least progressive politics, but then on the ground, not at all. And I think that what the conservatives are trying to do right now, and also with this kind of conservative pro-natalism, is to draw us back to and to kind of create this nice kind of combination of like both ideologically and materially kind of conservative politics. And then I think it's important to kind of show the other alternative, and kind of rallying for this more universal egalitarian pro-natalist perspective.
In that regard, are we in danger of accepting a false dichotomy then, that the only options are encouraging people to produce more bodies for the system, or if you want to be anti the system, you don't produce at all? Is that the dangerous kind of cross in the road that we're at right now?
Yeah, I think that's basically it. But I don't think, and I think that's an important point as well. I don't think that the reason that people are not having children is because like some radical left people are saying that it's conservative. I mean, if we would have that power, but I think it has to do with the fact that they just can't. So in that sense, like, I don't know how important this kind of ideological struggle is, but I think it points to kind of what kind of politics and policies do we want to fight for. And then I think that it's important to see that we can fight for pro-natalist policies, but but with a different goal in mind. So yeah.
And also, does this conversation, it seems, can you talk about this in the piece a little bit, adjacent to the great replacement theory, where there's this idea that uh, native populations are going to be replaced by immigrant populations. And we see, because of climate crises and wars that have to do with climate crises, that people are moving. As you were talking about, you have a much larger immigrant population in your country than you saw when you were growing up. And this great replacement theory, I think, works where people see certain changes. And, like where I'm from, I grew up in a city called Richmond, California, that when I was younger, it was about 45% Black. Now it's less than 20% Black. So some people see it as an invasion, if you will,
Yeah.
of migrants. And that's one of the things that kind of I took from your piece too, because I know I deal with people that talk about the great replacement theory, even if they don't know that they're talking about the great replacement theory. So this pro-natalism, anti-natalism debate kind of fits within that paradigm as well.
Yeah, it does. And I think it's I think that's why it's so like awful. And that's also like why, like, if you, when you see that kind of form, or that kind of I don't know, version of it, you really want nothing to do with it, right? But I think it's really important to see, like, how can we define this in another way? Like, how can we kind of point to the real problems, like why are people not having children? And if we point to the real problems, like, hopefully those kind of ideas, as the great replacement theory is kind of is proven wrong in a way. But I don't know, it's as you say, that people experience stuff, they see things and they try to make sense of it, and then, like, thoughts are kind of floating around, and they just grab it. I mean, yeah, I don't really know how to win that struggle, but maybe that wasn't the. I don't know if you had a more concrete question or a specific question that I could.
Well, I mean, I think this whole debate is a lot of thought. I don't have a concrete answer on how to fix the question of declining birth rates. The country I live in, Mexico, where I'm sure Americans believe every young girl over the age of 16 is pregnant, which they will be quite shocked. That is not the case at all. Even here, there's a lot more in certain areas, right? Autonomy for young women to not have to feel the need to be tied down and married and or have children. And it mirrors the U.S. I have a 27-year-old daughter that has been with the same young man for 8 years, and they have no intentions on reproducing whatsoever. So I see many young people just. I think for my kid, I can only go off of what my kids tell me. They saw their mother and I struggle, and it just doesn't seem like fun to them.
Yeah. And I think that, like, there are different parts to this. I think that firstly, like, this idea of, like, certain people are just reproducing, and they're reproducing like a group that will turn against us. I think I think that this is, like, of course, really, like, then you could just point to like facts and numbers and figures and just say that, okay, that's wrong. But then I think, like, another question that we need to deal with is, like, in general, is it a problem with the declining fertility rate? And then I think that, like, sometimes on the left, there's a tendency to kind of say that it's not a problem, you know, to just say that yeah, it's, you know, it's good, it's good for the environment and blah blah blah. But I think that this kind of anti-humanist, in a sense, climate policy, saying that if we just get rid of people, like everything will be fine. And then it's like, yeah, but like, who do we want to save the planet for? Like, if you see what I mean. So I think that, like, thinking that a way of solving it is to not reproduce is just stupid. And then it also doesn't deal with questions of, like, okay, so we have like an aging population, and someone needs to take care of them, and like, do we think that robots will do this like a good job in doing that, or do we think that like actually meeting other humans and getting care from them is worth something? And to not take that into account is to kind of devalue care. So I think that's also important to think about, like, to have a society where care is in the forefront also needs a society where we have enough people, you know. Yeah, so I think there are a lot of, like, things with this. So firstly, kind of proving people wrong when it comes to certain ideas of yeah, who's reproducing, who's not, but then actually also seriously discussing, like, what would be what is the problem
Well,
with declining fertility rate. Yeah,
I see the right reproducing at a rapid rate. They have the sex rooms.
yeah, maybe. So maybe we should, like, have a pro-natalist leftist alternative. You know, we have here in Gothenburg, where I live, like, we have this, like, speed dating for lefties and stuff like that. So maybe that's that's what
Just
we have
move
to
them into
do.
the F room. Yeah, just
Yeah.
go into the sex room. You guys are a
Yeah.
match. Sex room. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a baby.
Yeah. I think maybe that's that's what we should do.
Have you seen balloon pop shows? Do they have balloon pop shows in Gothenburg?
I haven't seen that, but I'm mostly at home, you know, working.
I'll have to send you some videos of balloon pop shows so you can see how
Do that.
dating should work. But wherever you guys are watching or listening to this show, there is a link in the description to Evelina's article. And Jacobin, what are you working on next?
Right now, I'm finishing finally my book on family abolition. So in the next couple of 3 weeks or something, I'm gonna just finalize it.
Is that coming on a Verso or?
Not sure yet, actually.
Okay.
But it's coming out. It's coming out in French first, so that's a bit weird. But
Wow.
so it's I write it in English, but it's translated into French. So then it's coming out early, like August or September, in French. And then I know that my editor at La Fabrique, where I'm publishing it in France, that she's constantly kind of nudging, she said, Verso. So let's hope. It would be great to have them out at the same time, like the English and the French version, but I think the French one will be out first. Yeah, and then apart from doing that, I'm still doing my work on activist mothers, because I think that and this is connected to all of this, you know, that we tend to, that quite often, like, parenthood or motherhood is seen as this kind of conservative thing, or just like, either in the way that, like, we isolate ourselves in our families, and like, so in that sense, it doesn't have this political power, but also that parents are kind of tyrants, just, you know. But then what I'm trying to look at is, like, when does the experience of being a mother kind of push you into politics and in what way can that experience kind of be like the most important sentiment for doing radical politics and progressive politics. So yeah, so now I'm looking at that and at like different organizations of mothers in Sweden who are kind of demanding stuff from the state in relation to their children and their needs. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. It's all, you know, it's all related. In
no,
one
no,
sense
no.
or another.
That sounds awesome. Please let me know when you have when you write something else on that. Just send it to me.
Yeah.
So I can have you
There
back
is
on
one. There is one piece out on Jacobin actually on the Nordic mothers.
On hardcore Nordic moms.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's basically it. And then I'm going to Finland tomorrow for a feminist Marxist conference. So yeah.
You're a busy beaver. You're a busy mom. You're
I'm
busy Marxist, feminist, family abolitionist mom.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's going to be the way I present myself on the conference.
Are you going to have your kid with you?
Thank you for
your
giving
kids
me.
with you? Like holding them up? So you can out mom the other moms.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me. For me this morning, for you later in the afternoon. And I will see, hopefully, all of you later today at 6 p.m. when I return with another philosopher, this time a man. Just kidding. It will be a man. Jason Reed, and we're going to talk about one of the greatest films of all time that Evelina's probably never seen, The Last Dragon. And on that note, we are out. See you soon.